Hi, Alexyz. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good. So this is a mosh posh. I mean, there's a lot going on in this film. So it's like a Big Brother inspired, The Circle inspired, everything in one horror film. Now, what was the idea to go with the plot that you came up with?
Um, Actually, it kind of started. I had a film in a horror festival in Spain in 2016 called "The Evil in Us"
Hmm.
in Sitges Film Festival, and the man that ended up being the producer on the film, Henrik Santenson, he saw a midnight screening in 2016 of the movie, and he really enjoyed it. So he, long story short, he contacted me through IMDb. At first, I thought he was, you know,
Hmm.
a grifter of some kind. He's like, I want to make a movie. He's like, I want to make a movie with you. I'm like, sure you do. Okay, but he ended up being totally legit, and he, together with my other producing partner here in Vancouver, Michael Giori, uh, the three of us set out. We met in Miami, and Henrik had this idea about uh, making this movie about a kind of a Big Brother thing where celebrities and Instagram stars enter a contest to see who survives, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like intrigued. I was, I wasn't a huge like Saw fan, but at the same
Hmm.
time, an opportunity arose and I liked it and I wanted to put my own little spin on it. So I did. So when I wrote it, I definitely interjected some things of my own. But basically, he just had this kernel of an idea that we turned into Funhouse. Yeah,
Nice. And now there's not much fun that happens in there. Uh,
hardly any.
Now, what was the thought behind the title? Because I mean, it's thinking of Funhouse, of course, and having it having to do with social media and influencers. They want to be a part of something that's fun, and living in a
Yeah.
house full of people right now for influencers sounds like a lot of fun. So, what was the decision behind Funhouse?
Uh, I think it's that whole, again, that juxtaposition of the yin and the yang. Of course, it's not fun, but it's like I wanted to show kind of like both sides of something.
Hmm.
That's the same reason we had the kind of the panda as the logo, the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the good and the bad, whatever you want to call it. It's I think those themes are throughout the movie, and I think that's inherently in all of us. So while it does start out as a fun experience for these people, obviously it quickly turns into something completely different.
Correct. Yes. Now, did you all film this during the pandemic? Was it before? Was it after? What area was it around?
This actually was long before. We actually shot this in 2018.
Wow.
So, and it took about till we released it in Europe in 2019, and then we were going to release it in the States and North America, but then the pandemic hit.
Hmm.
So that's the reason it's taken like an extra year for everything to come to fruition. So we were able to now have Magnolia Pictures picked it up for the US and Magnet releasing.
Hmm.
And so now we're releasing it here in the States. So
Now, is it safe to say that the pandemic played a major role in it being kind of delayed here, or was it just kind of like a minor setback?
I think it was played a major role, like in slowing things down because we were just in talks with some people when the pandemic hit, and I think that right in the beginning, everybody kind of stopped,
Hmm.
especially in the film business. Things kind of stopped production wise, and there was no way we could go down and meet with people or anything like that. So that became difficult. It's the same thing. Like we had a theatrical release for Funhouse in Europe
Uh-huh.
last summer that we weren't able to go to, which was a big bummer. But yeah,
Now, you also play in the film, so you're like a triple threat.
I don't know, triple something, but yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is I actually played a much bigger role than ended up in the film. Uh, I cut out probably 80 to 90% of all my scenes.
Oh
Like
wow.
I played one of the FBI agents that was tracking the Funhouse, and originally that side story was much, much more involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it just ended up not working in the edit. It was far too long, and it took away from some things. So because the first pass on the edit was like 2 hours and a half, which was unheard of, way too
Yeah.
long. So I had to cut that down, and unfortunately, one of the things that happened was that I cut my own part out, but that's okay.
Now, was it weird having to kind of like direct yourself in that moment?
It was strange. I've done it before on like small projects, so this was the first feature that I'd ever had to direct. But my DOP, Sean Seifert, he kind of just took over directing for that day. I think I only did 2 days where I was actually, my part was over 2 days, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not that hard these days with technology and with a great crew
Yeah.
and a talented DOP that can help you out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, I mean, of course, it has to do, like I said, with influencers, social media, and just the buzz that social media has over people's lives today. What message do you think that people should take away from this in regards to their use of social media and what people seem as deceiving as fun, but might not be as fun as it looks?
Well, I've always said, like, obviously I'm like a completely not a proponent of violence in any way. I'm a very anti-violent person, and that's why it's kind of strange that I got myself involved in a movie like this. But and I think the villain Nero, he is totally wrong in his tactics about how he goes about proving his point. It's obviously that's the furthest thing you ever want somebody to do in this situation. But I think some of his concerns are valid with social media, in that it's kind of like this Pandora's box that we've unleashed onto the world, and we don't really yet know we're starting to realize how it affects human beings, whether it's young girls on Instagram, and levels of suicide, or whether it's people just in general feeling more depressed or whatnot about their own lives when they see what's supposedly other people's lives, which we all are starting to understand, I think, hopefully. And it's important that we understand that this is not real life in general. This is the idealized version of everybody. And I think even though we understand that, it still doesn't take away from what we see. Like I'm victim to it myself. Like I even with this movie, I'm one of those guys, because I haven't made that many films yet, that I read all of the critiques and all
Yeah.
of the reviews, and it's tough. It's amazing when they're good, but it's like when there's trolls or there's people who just don't like your movie for whatever reason. I understand that. It's tough, and it's tough to you take that personally. And I think people do that more so with social media, because it's visual and it's about themselves as a human being and a person. And I think people just want to be heard and listened to, and there's just so many competing arguments. I think it's dangerous. And of course, we've all heard now fake news and misinformation and alternative facts. So it's tough to get the truth out of social media, and I think that's where the dangers lie.
Absolutely. Now, last question before we wrap up. We know that it's just coming out here in the US, and we know, well, I don't want to spoil it for anyone. We know how the end happens. Is there a possibility for some form of the sequel?
You know what? Absolutely. I personally wrote that ending so that there would be a sequel, because the first version, this isn't a spoiler because it never happened, but the first version of the film that we were going to shoot had our villain not making it. He's gone. So actually, he ended up getting burnt alive with the $5 million that the contestant won, which I thought some people would probably really enjoy that ending much better. You know what I mean? Without too many spoilers, because I think some people are not super happy with the ending, but it has definitely set up for a sequel, which I have got the entire storyline already worked out. It's called Funhouse Copycat.
Ah, and that's a good one, actually, because that's what you see a lot on social media, is the copycats. So
Yeah, so it's got it's definitely I would love to make it, but we'll see. I got a few other projects hoping to make as well. So
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this time. I hope everybody enjoys it because, like I said, it's relevant to today. So social media is
well,
super relevant.
it's not obviously not for everyone, and don't go in there. It's not for the faint of heart, and expect
Definitely
to
not.
see some things that you might not unsee. But anyway, it's all in
Yeah,
good fun.
absolutely. Right. All in good fun. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Okay,
Bye.
Thanks
take
a lot.
care.